The objective of this lesson is to use visual fraction models, drawings, and equations to represent word problems from partitive interpreted situations. Partitive interpretation is a form of division where the number of groups is known, but the size of each group is unknown. Let's start with the following problem. I have 1/3 of a cake. If divided equally into 3 containers, how much cake will fit in one whole container? We know from the problem that 1/3 is enough for 3 containers. We want to find out how much is enough for 1 container. Here is one way to model this problem. There are 3 containers holding cake. These containers hold 1/3 of the cake. If we had an entire cake, we would need more containers. 3 more containers give us enough for 2/3 of a cake. And 3 more containers give us enough for 3/3 or an entire cake. To answer the question, we need to know how much cake will fit in one container. It would take 9 containers to fit an entire cake, so 1/9 of a cake fits into one container. 1/3 divided by 3 equals 1/9. 1/3 is enough for 3. How much is enough for 1? 1/9. Let's solve another problem. I have 2/3 of a cake. If it is shared equally with 3 containers, how much cake will fit in each container? We know from the problem that 2/3 is enough for 3 containers. We want to find out how much is enough for 1 container. There are 3 containers holding cake. Since 3 containers hold 2/3 of a cake, 1½ containers holds 1/3 of a cake. We will add 1½ containers to our diagram to represent all the containers needed to hold one whole cake. We will also divide all the other containers in half, so we are using a common size. We now have a total of 9 sections of containers holding an entire cake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One container contains 2 of those 9 sections. 2/9 of the cake fits into one container. 2/3 divided by 3 equals 2/9. If we look at the division equations from these problems, we can see the pattern of the invert and multiply algorithm. For example, in the first problem, dividing by 3 is the same as multiplying by 1/3. As we use the inverse operation, multiplication is the inverse of division, we are also using the inverted form of the divisor. 1/3 is the inverse of 3. The objective of this lesson was to use visual fraction models, drawings, and equations to represent word problems from partitive interpreted situations. We met this objective by creating diagrams for the problems and identifying the invert and multiply pattern in the division equations.